103.2 Preston FM.
We dare to be different.
It's the glorious 25th of May. It is. I mean, regardless of whatever the weather is doing right now, and personally, speaking as somebody who's running a marathon, I hope it's a bit wet and a bit windy and rainy, because there's nothing like running 26 and a bit miles in the baking sun. But personally, I hope it's a little bit wet and rainy, but it could be glorious in the sense of the weather. It is glorious in the sense of Terry Pratchett's amazing novel, Night Watch. So the 29th novel in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series was called Night Watch, and it's a little bit of a time-travelling sort of time cop novel. I'm trying not to give spoilers because I want you to read it. If you haven't read it already, you should. In fact, if you're listening to the podcast, pause it right now, read the whole novel, come back. Maybe that's a bit over the top, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, Sam Vimes, who's the chief of police in Ankh-Morpork, he goes back in time to catch someone and ends up being part of a revolution. That happens on the glorious 25th of May. Now, because it's a real date and a real thing, all of us fans have latched onto that and we want to celebrate it. And one of the things that happens in the book is they wear lilac to identify who's on which part of the revolution. And what's the... I'm trying to remember the motto. I really should have wrote it down because I thought I would remember it because I'm such a geek. But... they wear the lilac. Now us fans have latched onto that, and one thing that's quite dear to us is Terry Pratchett's fabulous imagination. But he has a rare form of Alzheimer's, and this dementia is something that will attack his visual recognition, which makes it hard for him to write. And we all know that there's been Dementia Awareness this week, so hopefully you've been tuned into Chad City, you've heard all about it. If you haven't, they have the podcast on www.youtube.com/Preston1032. You can listen back to all the Dementia Awareness interviews that Hughie and the team did last week. Now, because he's got such a rare form of Alzheimer's, and the dementia in general is, I guess, a bit of a taboo subject, Sir Terry has not been shy about speaking out and raising awareness. One of the charities he has become a patron of is Alzheimer's Research UK. Now, I've got in touch with Rebecca from Alzheimer's Research UK, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about this now.
A local radio station
for local people.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community radio.
I'm talking with Rebecca Wood, Chief Executive of Alzheimer's Research UK. Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi there, Millie. I'm fine, thank you very much.
So today is the glorious 25th of May, bringing to the end a week on Preston FM where we've been talking about Alzheimer's and dementia across the board. Here on Geek Radio, we're very kind of passionate about all our geeky things, and one of the patrons of your charity is very vocal about his Alzheimer's, and Sir Terry Pratchett.
Absolutely, yeah, he is very vocal.
I think one of the things I know from Sir Terry about what he's talked about Alzheimer's is that not enough people talk about it.
Absolutely, I think he's been really key to that. I think almost tantamount to the work done by Ronald Reagan in just being able to talk about the disease. And a lot of that is because Terry always regarded it as a disease. In the same way that people can now talk about cancer, he felt exactly the same way about it. He didn't regard himself as brave. He just felt people should be talking about it, and particularly talking about research into Alzheimer's. And that's why we at Alzheimer's Research UK were so grateful to have him come along.
And what is it that Alzheimer's Research UK, obviously you do research, but what sort of research are you doing at the minute?
We're doing lots of different exciting projects. So over the years we've funded over £50 million worth of research. But the work we're doing at the moment is trying to get closer to new drugs for the disease. So we're looking at closing the gap between people in universities doing research and getting their work ready to take to drug companies who will then get interested in it and try to fund it and take it forward into new drugs for people. So we're very keen on that at the moment. But we do all sorts of work, not just in Alzheimer's disease, or that's the one in our name, but actually all forms of dementia. It's just that's the most common, and it's the most recognisable to most people. But vascular dementia we do work on, Lewy body dementia, which affects people. It's a bit like Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease dementia actually we do as well. So big range.
And Sir Terry has a rather rare form of dementia.
He does, yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutelySo Terry's rather ironically says at times, I'm quite lucky in the form of dementia I've got. But what he means by that is it hasn't affected his memory early on, as most Alzheimer's does. And the reason is he's got a version called posterior cortical atrophy, PCA for short. And what that means is the sorts of things that go wrong in the brain, which are tangling up of proteins in the brain, go wrong further back in his brain than it does in most people with Alzheimer's. So instead of affecting the bit with memory, it affects the bit that interprets what his eyes see. So it's quite rare. We estimate there are a few thousand people with it in the UK, but because it's quite rare, the problem is that often it's not diagnosed straight away. So usually somebody will go to the opticians because they're having what they think is a problem with their sight. But as I say, it's actually a part of the brain that interprets that sight. So people find it increasingly difficult, for instance, to walk well because the floor working out where the floor is gets increasingly difficult, for instance, or to grasp things, or even to see things that are in front of them because they flash in and out of vision.
Some of the research you've been doing is to help the diagnosis of things like that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. So in fact, there's a particular project we're doing at the moment with Dr. Sebastian Crutch at University College in London, and he's a leading expert on posterior cortical atrophy, and he's looking to improve what happens, looking at its causes and symptoms, and how it develops, because it's a very personal journey for Alzheimer's disease, including for PCA, because the rate at which the disease develops is quite different. The way people cope with it is quite different. So understanding more about why some people progress faster than others, for instance, is important, because obviously what we would hope to do is slow it down for everybody, intervene in the process, stop it if we can, in an ideal world, actually reverse some of the damage. But the main thing is, stopping it progressing.
There's currently no cure for Alzheimer's and dementias. Is that something you see coming soon?
It's definitely getting closer. We know an awful lot more. And I think because we're all talking about dementia a lot more, we forget how recently that's been the case. So I've been at Alzheimer's Research UK for 16 years, and when I first started out, if you spoke to most people, they'd never even heard of Alzheimer's disease, and that seems unthinkable now, but that actually was the case. And I think understanding that we've made some real leaps forward, so we understand a lot more about the disease, we understand a lot more about ways to lower our risk, for instance, taking exercise. The sorts of things we do for heart disease are really important also for dementia, lowering our risk. But also our social networks, the way we talk to people, and keeping our brains active are also important. So we understand a lot more about that. And we understand fundamentally a lot more about how the disease happens and the different proteins involved. But we still need to understand a lot more. And Alzheimer's Research UK is doing a lot more. We're going to be doing a lot more in the future. We're really gearing up to try and make a big leap forward. And the PM's Dementia Challenge has really helped with that as well. So the Prime Minister has a dementia challenge, and the government is therefore being persuaded to put a bit more money in. But it's still incredibly underfunded compared with other diseases, and yet it affects... It has about the same cost to the country as heart disease and cancer combined. So it's incredibly important that we do deal with it from a research point of view. And that's the only way to deal with it, really. We can do better care, but we'll end up caring for more and more people if we don't nail the problem.
Today, when this interview is aired, is the glorious 25th of May.
Yes.
Are you wearing the lilac at the weekend?
Well, we'll be, because we actually, our whole charities work is around purple. Well, that's the irony of it. So I think, we're always wearing purple, actually. But I think, and I know it refers to Night Watch, one of Terry's books. Actually, I read it, but I have read it quite a long time ago. But I think it's lovely to tie it in with that, and a really important area, because he is such a great writer.
He's shaped so much of kind of the comedy and the geek culture almost. There's a whole convention about Discworld, which is just bizarre to attend. And I think it really has touched the fans when he was so open and honest about, look, I have Alzheimer, I have a dementia, and if I don't tell people, it's not going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually his fans have been incredibly generous to us, and have been really interested in everything, obviously, that Terry does, but also in things that we do. So we're really, really grateful for that. That's made a difference to us. And I know it makes a difference to Terry to know that they're all behind him.
So if some fans, now we've just educated them a little bit and they were lacking behind on everybody else, how can they get involved and donate on the 25th of May? You can do all sorts of fundraising for Alzheimer's Research UK. We'll be extremely grateful. And you can raise money and donate it through a number of routes, either on our phone line, 0300 111 5555, or our website, alzheimersresearchuk.org, or you can make a £3 donation by text by typing in the word defeat to the number 70111. But we hope that people will really get behind us. Look at our blogs. We've got some really good stuff, including an initial blog by Terry. So I think we've had some good visits from fans there. But they're great stories about people who are doing a lot and who are determined to make a difference in dementia and to find a way through. So it's really quite inspiring. So there we go. That was Rebecca from Alzheimer's Research UK. Check them out. They are lilac. And find out a little bit more about the charity yourselves at alzheimersresearchuk.org. They are on Twitter and all that kind of things. This whole week has been Dementia Awareness Week. Head over to our YouTube channel, find out more about the Alzheimer's interviews that Huey and the team on Chat City did. There are some really fascinating ones. One of the ones I was really fascinated was on Thursday, they spoke to Dr. Kareem, who is from UConn, and he's researching into dementia-friendly environments. It's really fascinating. So head over there and see what you think about that. You're listening to 103.2 Preston FM.
Made by people like you.
Your community.
Your radio.
Your Preston FM.